What if I told you that a massive European fleet was badly defeated by just a handful of Filipino warriors? Imagine this. In 1646, a small band of Filipino warriors faced off against a powerful Dutch fleet, determined to seize Manila and take over the Philippines from the Spaniards. The odds? Completely stacked against them. With their superior firepower and much larger ships, the Dutch seemed unstoppable. Yet, with smaller boats and clever tactics, these Kapampangan warriors turned the tide, winning a battle that seemed so impossible that the Spaniards called it a miracle. But was it truly just divine intervention, or was there something else at play? How exactly did a small band of underdog warriors defeat one of Europe's most formidable navies? Mabuhay or in Kapampangan, luwid kayo. Welcome to my channel. It's me, Kirby Araullo, your friendly Pinoy historian. But before we dive in, today's video is actually an updated and expanded version of the one I made many years ago. A lot of you have been asking me to revisit this topic, so today we're diving deeper into the epic battles of La Naval de Manila. In the 1600s, the Philippines under the Spaniards faced a relentless Dutch invasion. But what made these battles unique was not just the clash between European powers. It was the critical role of the native Kapampangan warriors. These native fighters, using their naval skills and bravery, helped turn the tide in favor of the defenders. It is also worth noting that during this time, the term Filipino referred only to the Spaniards born in the Philippines. Before the rise of Filipino nationalism in the 1800s, the native population of the islands identified themselves primarily by their ethnic groups like Kapampangans, Tagalog, Cebuano, Bicolano, Muaray, Tausug, Magindanaon, and many more. But for simplicity and clarity, I will occasionally use Filipino in this video to refer to the diverse native peoples of what is now the Philippines, while also using specific ethnic names as needed. And today we'll explore how these Kapampangan warriors alongside their Spanish allies defended the Philippines against overwhelming odds. This story is not just about battleships and cannons, it is about the resilience of a people fighting to protect their motherland. We'll dive into the strategies, sacrifices, and the miraculous victory that followed. So let's step away from the mainstream colonial narrative and learn more about the battles of La Naval through the eyes of the native warriors who made such an epic victory possible. For centuries, the history of the battles of La Naval de Manila has focused on a single narrative: divine intervention. So according to this mainstream narrative, the Virgin Mary, under the title Nuestra Señora del Santísimo Rosario, or in English, Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary, interceded on behalf of the Spanish Filipino defenders, guiding them to a surprising, miraculous victory over the Dutch. It is a narrative that's been celebrated in annual festivities, with grand processions, festivities, and devout prayers, thanking the Virgin Mary for her protection. This belief was reinforced by the Spanish colonial authorities and the Catholic clergy, who used it as proof that their mission in the Philippines had divine approval. The Spaniards saw the victory as a sign that God was on their side as they spread Christianity, particularly the Catholic Church, throughout the archipelago. But was it really just divine intervention that saved Manila and the Philippines from the Dutch? What if there's something more to this victory than just prayers? The battles of La Naval de Manila were part of a much larger conflict between Spain and the Dutch Republic, stretching from 1568 to 1648, known as the 80 Years' War. And what started as a fight for Dutch independence from the Spanish crown soon expanded beyond Europe, spilling into the distant colonies of these empires, including the Philippines. By the 1640s, the Dutch, driven by their desire to control the critical trade routes, set their sights on Manila, Spain's crown jewel in Asia. Manila had long been a key stronghold and a central hub of regional maritime trade networks, long before Spain itself was even unified as a kingdom, making Manila a highly coveted prize for European powers. For centuries before Spanish colonization, the people from the Kingdom of Luzon, known as the Luzones, were known as formidable seafarers, warriors, and traders across Southeast Asia. Their legacy lived on through their descendants, the Kapampangans, who would later play a crucial role in the battles against the Dutch. The Dutch sought to capture Manila not just because of its strategic location, but also to disrupt the lucrative Manila-Acapulco galleon trade and weaken the Spanish influence in the region. The Dutch had already established strongholds in Formosa, now Taiwan, and the Dutch East Indies, or modern-day Indonesia, making control over Luzon and Manila the critical next step in their bid for dominance over Southeast Asia. Control over Manila would allow them to expand their influence further and solidify their power in the lucrative Asian trade networks. But defending this distant colony was a major challenge for Spain. Thousands of miles away from Europe and the Americas, Spanish forces were stretched thin, and the Dutch attacks came at a time when resources were limited. To maintain control, they needed to rely heavily on local allies. This is where the Kapampangans came in. Known for their formidable skills in warfare, the Kapampangans were not just fighting for the Spanish crown. They were defending their homes, their communities, and their way of life from foreign invaders. Their expertise in the seas and their commitment to defending their motherland made them invaluable in the battles that were to come. The Kapampangans of La Pampanga, a vast colonial province stretching across what is now Central Luzon, had a complex relationship with the Spanish crown, shaped by both subjugation and collaboration. For centuries, they were seen as a crucial part of the Spanish colonial apparatus. Their reputation as skilled warriors made them a natural choice for military service. In return, many in the Kapampangan nobility received special privileges, and these arrangements allowed the Kapampangan elite to maintain a degree of influence and stability within the colonial system. Yet, these privileges came at a steep price. For example, the Poloy Servicio system, a policy of forced labor, required many Kapampangans to work under harsh conditions, building ships, roads, and fortifications in faraway places. And this system became even more demanding during the Spanish-Dutch Wars, as the Spaniards needed more labor to fortify Manila's defenses and protect their colonies in the Philippines. The Kapampangans were conscripted and forced to build galleons, operate cannons, and serve as soldiers and sailors against the Dutch. This heavy labor took a toll on the families, separating young men from their communities for months or even years at a time. But when the Dutch came to attack, the Kapampangans rallied to the Spanish cause. Now, this was not out of their blind allegiance or blind loyalty to the colonizers, but instead, it was from their fierce determination to protect their people, defend their motherland, and secure a place in a rapidly changing world. They recognized that by supporting the Spaniards, they could secure better treatment and ensure the survival of their communities. Additionally, by this time, the Kapampangans had already converted to the Catholic Church, which further aligned their interests with Catholic Spain against the Protestant Dutch Republic. Indeed, their role in the battles of La Naval solidified their status as vital allies, not just subjugated subjects. Their commitment was not really about their allegiance to Spain. More importantly, their actions were driven by the need to secure a stable future for their people, especially within the new colonial order, driven by their devotion to safeguarding their culture, identity, and their way of life. The battles of La Naval de Manila were not a single clash, but rather a series of 5 naval battles, stretching from March to October of 1646. The Dutch launched a coordinated attack to capture Manila with a formidable force consisting of 35 warships, including 16 galleons, 3 fireships, and 16 smaller launches, armed with an estimated 470 cannons and 800 soldiers. They faced a much smaller Spanish-Filipino fleet consisting of only 8 ships, including 3 Manila galleons, 1 galley, and 4 brigantines. But unknown to many, this fleet was also backed by the unrecorded number of smaller Kapampangan warboats, known as virais. Nevertheless, with only 400 soldiers and 68 cannons, it seemed like an impossible battle for the Spanish and Filipino forces to win. But the Kapampangans, highly skilled in guerrilla-style naval warfare, turned the tide. Using their smaller but faster virais, they executed daring maneuvers, luring the Dutch galleons into shallow waters, where they were trapped and struggled to navigate. In Kapampangan, this was a tactic known as the sampang. This clever maneuver involved smaller virais encircling a larger vessel, bombarding it with cannon fire, and then boarding it for brutal close combat. These maneuvers required incredible coordination, bravery, and more importantly, an intimate knowledge of the waters around Manila Bay. The final battle on October 4, 1646 became a decisive turning point. The Spanish-Filipino fleet, bolstered by 400 Kapampangan warriors, inflicted heavy losses on the Dutch, killing over 500 soldiers, sinking 2 fireships and severely damaging 3 more vessels, while only losing 15 Kapampangans. Against all odds, they preserved Manila and its vital trade routes, securing a victory that would be celebrated for centuries. This battle was more than a military triumph. It was a moment where native ingenuity and determination shone through, challenging the might of European power. The victory at La Naval de Manila was quickly framed as miraculous. Spanish authorities and the Catholic clergy attributed the triumph to the intercession of the Virgin Mary, Nuestra Señora del Santísimo Rosario. They believed that through their prayers, her divine protection had saved Manila from the Dutch Protestants, and this narrative was promoted through sermons, processions, and the establishment of the Feast of La Naval, which became a major religious celebration. Sacred images of the Virgin Mary were carried through the streets in grand processions, symbolizing the belief that divine intervention had steered the course of history. For the Spaniards, this victory affirmed their Catholic mission in the Philippines. But for the Kapampangans, the story is quite different. While the religious fervor that followed the victory reinforced their status as defenders of the faith, it also often overshadowed their real sacrifices and their strategic decisions that had won the day. The Kapampangan ingenuity in naval warfare, their intimate knowledge of the open seas, and their readiness to face overwhelming odds were pivotal in the outcome of the battles. Yet sadly, much of their contributions were lost in the retelling of a miracle. To this day, the Feast of La Naval de Manila is celebrated in Quezon City, Bacolor in Pampanga, and in my hometown Angeles City. But as we commemorate this event, it is important for us to remember the real human stories behind the legend in the retelling of a miracle. The Kapampangan warriors who faced cannon fire, rough seas, and fierce battles, not just for the Spanish crown, but more importantly to protect their communities from invaders. Okay, let's be honest. Victory is often sweet, but at what cost? What exactly happened in the aftermath of these battles? And how exactly did the Kapampangan loyalty quickly turn into an open rebellion? The aftermath of the battles of La Naval de Manila brought both rewards and challenges for the Kapampangans. Their critical role in securing the Spanish victory did not go unnoticed. In gratitude, the Spanish crown granted them significant privileges, such as the right to retain ancestral lands, exemptions from colonial taxes, restored titles of nobility, and opportunities for some Kapampangan elites to study in Spanish institutions. Many Kapampangan families were also able to retain, protect, and pass down their indigenous last names as part of these privileges. So if you're curious about why many Filipino families have Spanish last names, I've actually covered this topic in another video, so make sure to watch it after this one. Now for a time, this marked a high point in the relationship between the Kapampangans and their colonial rulers. Indeed, unknown to many, the Kapampangan nobility were integrated into the Spanish hidalguía, or the Spanish lower nobility. It seemed as though their sacrifices had paid off. However, these rewards came with a significant cost. The demands of polo y servicio, a system of forced labor, only intensified after the battles. Many Kapampangans found themselves conscripted, not only for local labor projects, but also sent far away from home, fighting in Spanish expeditions across Southeast Asia, in places like Mindanao and in the Moluccas, in what is now Indonesia. As a result, families were separated and the population suffered. The heavy toll of continuous labor and military service strained their communities, while their lands faced exploitation for timber and other resources, leading to the tragic deforestation and environmental decline of La Pampanga. Even though they enjoyed certain privileges, the Kapampangans grew increasingly aware of the inequalities and abuses of the colonial system, and this simmering discontent would eventually boil over into open resistance. In 1660, just 14 years after their victory against the Dutch, the Kapampangans, led by Francisco Maniago, rose up against the Spaniards in what became known as the Maniago Revolt. This revolt was driven by the frustrations over continued conscription, unfair labor practices, and the Spanish exploitation of their people and resources, echoing the heavy burdens they had borne during and after the Dutch threat. Although the Maniago Revolt was eventually suppressed, it left a powerful message. The loyalty of the Kapampangans had its limits. Their willingness to fight against foreign invaders did not extend to tolerating exploitation by their supposed allies. This legacy of resistance highlighted a complex relationship with the Spaniards, one that oscillated between cooperation and defiance. Yet, despite these hardships, the legacy of the Kapampangan warriors endures. Their courage in the battles of La Naval, their role in resisting colonial abuses, and their determination to protect their motherland and their people remain a testament to the resilience of our ancestors, a legacy that continues to inspire people today. As we wrap up our journey through the battles of La Naval de Manila, it is clear that this chapter of history is more than just a story of colonial rule. It is a story of Filipino resilience, Kapampangan valor, and a community that stood strong against a powerful invader. By reclaiming these narratives, we honor those who fought and reflect on how their sacrifices have shaped our community and identity today. The battles fought near Manila were part of a larger struggle that spanned continents and the open seas, from the Netherlands to the Spice Islands of Indonesia. Yet, it was here, in the waters of the Philippines, where the tides of history turned, all thanks to the fierce spirit of our ancestors. Our people's history is full of unexpected twists and turns, and this story reminds us that even against overwhelming odds, courage and determination can change the course of events. It's a classic David and Goliath story, a powerful reminder not to underestimate our ancestors, whose ingenuity and strength defied and shattered the limits imposed by colonialism, with their cleverness and tenacity showing us that even the toughest battles can be won. Okay, now I'd love to hear from you. How do you think these battles change the future of the Philippines? And more importantly, what lessons can we draw from this victory to face the challenges that the Philippines and Southeast Asia is facing today? Let us know in the comments below. And by the way, in case you missed it, I started a new series of zines diving deeper into the topics that we talked about in this channel. In fact, a new one about the battles of La Naval is on its way, so stay tuned. And if you like this video and learned something new, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos and content about our people's history, culture, and everything in between. And if you would like to support my research and my channel, join us as a member of my YouTube channel or as a patron on Patreon, because your support has kept this channel going for the past 12 years, and I'm truly grateful for our growing community. And you can also support me by getting copies of my books, coloring books, ebooks, and merch, all about the fascinating history and cultures of the Philippines and Southeast Asia. In fact, I'm also working on a bigger book about the Luzones, exploring their rich history and influence across Southeast Asia, the Americas, and beyond. And this has been a long-term project, and I truly appreciate your support as I dig deeper into our ancestors' untold history. Check out the links below for more information. Maraming salamat po, o in Kapampangan, dakal pong salamat kay Hongan, and in Binisaya, daghang salamat sa inyong tanan. See you next time, or Tagalog kita kits, and in Kapampangan, Mikitix, and in Binisaya, kita aita.